button. Going on. All right, I'm just going to jump right into it today. I think I got everything out. Shared the new notification system, so that worked as well. We've got an action-packed show, and I'm going to try to finish it in an hour if I can. So without further ado, my name is Steve. The show is called Wake Up America. We are live streaming to all social media channels, in addition to ptnn.tv, in addition to the new Citizen Stringer app. Some of you already have it. If you have an Android phone and you are a PTNN member, you will have access to it. If you're not a PTNN member, go to ptnn.tv, sign up today, choose one of the plans, and then you'll get an email with the link to download the app. I will be going through the way the system's set up, blah, blah, blah. I'll be going through and making sure you're a PTNN member. But you can watch the live feeds there. You can cast it out to your TV and do a bunch of other stuff. Plus, there's a whole bunch of other features. We'll talk about it more once the iPhone app comes out. But as a reminder, this show is sponsored by SpartanArmorSystems.com. They are an Arizona-based body armor manufacturer, which you can't see there, but now you can. I gotta make something better. I'm gonna do it next weekend, I think. But I'm gonna make something to display those a little bit better so they show up. But those are I've got the hard plate and the soft plate right there, and then the little plates there too, side plate as well. But yeah, check out SpartanArmorSystems.com and use code YEET and get 10% off your body armor order. You guys ready for this? You ready for this? I kind of led into it. For anyone that doesn't know, right after we moved up to Virginia, we started covering, we got invited, I guess, to cover some BLM protests that were taking place in Staunton, Virginia. Staunton's a town of about 25,000 people. It's not a really big town. And there was some weird BLM protests. And I say weird because, well, they were wearing microphones and things like that. All the protesters were. So I decided to go down, take my camera. We broadcast live, and we've written a couple of stories about those already. Now, I knew the story is so convoluted. I'm going to kind of walk through it for everybody. If you've never watched this before, I'm going to walk through the entirety of everything from the moment I found out about it to the thing that I'm going to break now at 8:06. Actually, we're going to have an article. What was that? What was that? I don't even know what that was because I don't get Facebook stars, so I have no idea what that noise was. But yeah. So anyway, we've been demonetized on Facebook, so I don't think Facebook stars work, but that sounded a lot like a Facebook star, but I don't know what that is. Anyway, so yeah, I moved up to Virginia, I don't know, what was it, in the beginning of June. Shortly after I moved up, one of the viewers of the show sent me a message, and someone said, "You see stars today?" I don't know if you're talking about on Facebook. If you do see stars on Facebook, let me know, because that's interesting, because we were demonetized. Oh my God, I got stars back on Facebook. Amazing. I was remonetized on Facebook. Look at that. Keep sending stars, everybody. Facebook can't keep us down. So we were remonetized. See, we find out live on the air. Adam and I were just talking about this. So I was remonetized on Facebook, so that's very good. It's another revenue stream that we need. Anyway, so I moved up to Virginia about a month ago. One of our viewers, Joy, ended up sending me a message and saying, "Hey, there's some protests going on in this little town in Virginia. You're up here now. Would you mind covering them? I think there's more to it." And I was like, what does that mean, more to it? So, they... according to the people that I talked to initially, there was some BLM protests that were taking place outside of the Augusta County Sheriff's Office. Now, the protesters got pretty rowdy, started yelling at everybody. There was a fight before I started getting there between a photographer and and one of the Patriot protesters. So essentially what this little town did is there was a bunch of Patriots that went out and decided that they didn't like their police officers being harassed by this BLM crowd every single day. So they started going out and kind of holding an opposing flag rally, which was very cool. And then, the BLM protesters and everybody started fighting with each other. The thing that's interesting about it is one of the Patriots, the one that organized it, her name is Paige. She owns a gym down there in Staunton, and the protest actually moved from the police station to in front of her gym to try to disrupt her business and all this other stuff. So we had a bunch of interviews with them. I went down, I covered it a couple of times. One of the things I noticed is that this wasn't a typical BLM protest. From the very beginning, the way they move, we've been covering them for a year. So I kind of consider myself to be an expert at these kind of things now, because we've been covering protests for a year. I can kind of forecast what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, right before it does. But this was different, because they had a professional camera crew with them. And this was a small group. I'm not talking like, a Minneapolis with hundreds and hundreds of people. Now I'm talking maybe 2 dozen people at most. They had professional camera crews with three people there with very expensive cameras. They had all the protesters were all mic'd up, so they were all wearing lapel mics. Either the wireless ones where you just have the big square here, or the actual corded lapel mics. And I thought that was weird. And then everybody was kids except for 3 older men. And when I say kids, again, kid to me is someone that's under 25, someone that hasn't lived a life and hasn't learned a lot in how to, be an adult. So it struck me as odd. So I decided to look into what was going on. And I found out that the 3 adults here, you know what, let me go like this and put this over here. So I found out that the 3 adults that were with these guys in all these protests, which you'll see right here. You got the guy on the closest to my arm right here. That's Wayne Schneider, David Wayne Schneider, actually. Yeah, as you can see, these are all mugshots. But so you have all these adults that are with all these kids. So you have David Wayne Schneider, who is there. You have Richard Moore, who's the one in the middle. And then you have Michael Donovan, who's the one on the far right. Now, what's interesting about these is all 3 of these people, except Wayne Schneider says he's retired, but I don't know. I found a video of him. Maybe he retired in the past year. It could have been because he's under, what is he? Federal probation, I think, for 129 counts of tax fraud. But whatever. These 3 own a very large company, or they are executives or used to be executives with this very large company called Nexus. Now, that's kind of interesting, right? Because it makes you say, well, what is this big company called Nexus Services that has ties to the immigration thing? And I'll get to that in a minute. Why are they out here with protests? Doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Well, so we started diving into it more, and I did a whole video on it, and I'm going to kind of glaze over some of the protest stuff. But we did a whole article on it. You could read that article, or if you read the article that just went out a few minutes ago on citizenstringer.com, if you read that article, you're going to see that there's links to the previous articles we wrote about this. But one of the things that was kind of interesting about it is once I started looking into the company, because I'm like, okay, it's to me, it's weird that everyone's mic'd up, that it's a show. Okay, that's weird in itself because we've never seen that. In over a year of covering these BLM protests, never have I seen that. And then it turns out that all these kids, these protesters, are all actors. They're all part of a reality show called The System, which is on some sort of independent streaming network by Unleash TV. So we started looking up Nexus because all these people, including Michael Donovan. So if you watch this one, the guy on the far right, he's lost a lot of weight now, but his name is Michael Donovan. He's a cast member on this reality show as the boss. Very weird, right? So I started looking into it more, trying to figure out what everything was and what was going on. So I started looking into Nexus Services because, again, it didn't make sense why these three, rich guys, essentially, were taking part in this protest and we're doing this reality show. I couldn't really connect all the dots. So I started looking at Nexus Services because that was something that I wanted to figure out. Why is Nexus going belly up, or what is the deal? Why are they trying to diversify their business? I'm a business owner and I own a couple of businesses and I'm invested in a bunch of others. So I understand, diversifying income and things like that, but I just didn't understand it. So I started looking into Nexus Services, and then I was really shocked to find out what it actually does. So Nexus Services is a parent company to a whole umbrella of subsidiaries that you have. Libre by Nexus, Homes by Nexus, all these other ones. The thing that's interesting about it is what they do is they provide the surety bond. So they put up the money essentially, or they're supposed to put up the money for people that are seeking asylum that come into the United States, get caught, get arrested. They're being held on an asylum bond, which is an immigration bond that most bondsmen don't want to fork over the money for. So this company comes in. They can't write a bond, keep in mind, because, I showed you, but I'll show you again. They can't write any bonds because they can't get the license to do so because of those very mugshots. So they can't do it. Oh, skipped it too far. Oh, yeah, see? So the ankle monitors. This is what they do. So they bond out these illegal immigrants that come in here and are looking for a new start, that are seeking asylum. They come in and basically they secure the bond through using intermediaries. So they can't write the bonds themselves because they're not, legit. Or they are legit. The company is legit. For some reason, nobody wants to cover this either. We sent this story out to every single news outlet. No one wants to touch it. Don't understand why, considering these guys are being sued by virtually everybody. But anyway. So it's kind of interesting. So what they do and the way they do all this is they have to use third-party companies. So they have to use bail bondsmen because they can't get licenses for bail bondsmen because they have crimes of moral turpitude, which is, again, the one guy, 129 counts of tax fraud. The other one, defrauding an innkeeper. Moore's got, I believe, I'm not even going to say that because I haven't confirmed it, but he's got a bunch of charges too. Donovan's got felony, defrauding innkeepers, bad checks, things like that. Just a bunch of moral turpitude. Those are fraud, essentially, moral turpitude. Things that you're doing. So you wouldn't be able to get a license to be a bondsman. You couldn't get a license to sell the insurance, the surety bonds either. So what they have to do is they contract with other companies. Now, the way that they are able to get the surety bonds is they go through a surety company like there's RTI Insurance Services, which we're going to get into in a second. But they also then have to use third-party bail bondsmen. How are these bail bondsmen going to put up the bond if they're not sure that they'll be able to recover it? Because immigration bonds are notoriously high risk because people flee. They either go back home to their country or they just never show up for court. So bail bondsmen typically don't put up immigration bonds unless they're secured. So here comes Nexus. They come in and they start providing these ankle monitors, which is this. So they provide these ankle monitors, and not necessarily this one. That's a stock photo. Whoops. So they put in these ankle monitors, and then they charge $420 a month for the ankle monitors. So the people that are out don't know what they actually have to do. And there's all these, I mean, they're getting sued by everyone. State of New York, state of Massachusetts, state of New Jersey, state of Virginia, state of California. Long story short, they're getting sued by all these states because they're saying it's deceptive business practices. And you can look up the cases if you have a Pacer account, or just literally Google Nexus Services and you'll find all the cases that they're involved with. But apparently one of the major things that they do is they don't know the people that are signing these bonds, or so the people that are getting out with this immigration bond, they don't realize, because they don't read English, and the 18 of the 20 pages of their contracts are in English. For some reason, there's this miscommunication. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here, where allegedly the people that are out on bond, so the immigrants that are out on bond, don't understand that the money that they're paying, the $420 per month that they're using to pay for that ankle monitor, isn't going towards their bond. So they're just essentially leasing that ankle monitor, and then this company Nexus is keeping that money. In addition to that, I mean, even that is just so wrong in my, it's so wrong, basically, in Washington Post and the New Yorker, and they've all written about Nexus. And that's the amazing thing, is everybody's written about these guys. Everybody's written about Mike Donovan and Nexus and Libre by Nexus and all this stuff, and nothing happens. And maybe it's just because the federal government's slow walking. I understand they're under investigation and all that stuff now, but for some reason they're able to keep doing what they're doing and nobody's doing anything about it. So they did get in trouble in California, and I forgot one other state, for these ankle monitors. So they switched off from the ankle monitors. They said it was because of COVID-19. I don't know whether it was because of COVID-19. It could have been because they're not allowed to write bonds and use ankle monitors in California anymore. So they switched to mobile phones. So now they issue either you have to download an app which tracks every single little keystroke on your phone, or they give you a phone which you have to pay a program fee. Guess how much the program fee is? $420 per month. But you have to pay a program fee for their phone. It's their property. They could track everything. It's automatically geolocating you at all times, and you're required by their terms to keep that phone on you at all times. Very interesting, right? So that's the story with Nexus. It's a very weird company. They're under investigation by, the Attorney General of New York, the Attorney General of Massachusetts, all these different companies. So that in itself would be a huge story, because this company is profiting immensely off the immigration crisis. So you would think when we broke this story 2 or 3 weeks ago that major news would have picked it up. Like, it would have been a big story, but apparently it's not. We'd rather just talk about 5 dumbasses from Texas that that tested positive for COVID, because that's what's important. Well, it's just stupid. Anyway, so again, I was still missing that connection. So how are these guys connected to a BLM protest in rural Virginia? Granted, they are from Virginia. Their offices are in Virginia, but their company is no longer registered in. Well, it's not domiciled here in this state. It's domiciled in Georgia. Interesting. I don't know why they would do that. Tax purposes, maybe. I have no idea. And then they're operating here in Virginia, even though everyone lives in Virginia. They're operating here as a foreign entity in this state. Very weird. They used to be here, but then they dissolved that and moved down to Georgia. Weird. But again, what's that have to do with BLM protests? How does this make sense? It really doesn't. When you actually try to put everything together and you look into the history of Michael Donovan, he seems to have a personal vendetta for whatever reason against the sheriff of Augusta County. He's filed numerous lawsuits against the sheriff, and it seems that the BLM protest, which all these protesters are saying, out with the sheriff and, talking about all this stuff, about body cams and all this BS. I made an offer to buy half of the body cams if Donovan forked up the money for the rest, but he can't do that. And I'll tell you why in a second, because they owe everybody money. So all these ankle monitors that they had before, guess what? They didn't pay for them. So they got sued by all 3 different ankle monitor companies for not paying the bills for the ankle monitors. And we're talking tens of millions of dollars. They had an immigration attorney that they signed some big lucrative deal with. Guess what? They didn't pay her. She's suing for $500,000. Other attorneys are suing them as well. Now there's this company called RTI Insurance Services. Remember, they're the ones who write the bond. Well, they've been suing Nexus for years now. And finally, in I think it was August of 2020, they finally won, and the appeal was returned, and Nexus was going to have to pay $3.3 million plus keep $2.4 million in escrow, blah, blah, blah. Except Nexus just never did it. They did what they do with most cases and just, do all these frivolous filings to keep it going longer and longer and longer. Now, what's kind of interesting is Nexus followed a pattern. See, I'm going off script here because I have pictures up. Hold on. What the hell? What in the hell? Oh, how come it's not moving? Yeah, I got to go backwards. So this is the court case. So let me just skip through some of these. Oh, yeah, here we go. These are the interesting ones. If they're watching, they're going to be so pissed because I figured everything out. So one of the things with RLI is back as soon as the case was kicked out, or as soon as it was determined that that Nexus was going to have to pay this company RLI, all this big data breach happened, right? So there was this data breach apparently where Nexus's login information was released. Nexus said it was RLI. They filed a whole pile of frivolous, motions and stuff to try to stop it. They found other people allegedly to file lawsuits against them for this data breach, except the information that was released was a username and password that was part of the court documents that Nexus actually supplied to RLI. They used that in one of their court documents. Court documents clearly are public. That's how I'm able to get them. And then that information was made public. There was no confirmation of a data breach whatsoever. Nobody's information was leaked at all. But what's interesting about it is they tried to have RLI's attorneys and RLI sanctioned for this data breach. And they went above that because what they actually did was they staged a protest outside of RLI's headquarters in Peoria, Illinois. I can't say that, but in Illinois. Now, what's interesting is you see here, there's this group called Armed. Okay, so I wanted to look into Armed, and I was like, it doesn't make any sense. So there's a protest outside of RLI for this data breach, and the protest was run by this group called Armed, Chicago Armed, whatever. So I went to their website, and I'm trying to figure out who this group is, Armed, and it didn't take me long because I found out that the civil rights group named America Resisting Minority and Ethnic Discrimination includes the founding members, and it says this on their website as of right now. It's screenshot, so if they try to delete it, we still have it. But on their website, on the Armed website, it actually says the founding members of the group are 3 preachers, and then it says Reverend Michael Donovan and Evan Adjen. Evan Adjen is a vice president with Nexus. Michael Donovan is the CEO in Nexus. So they have this nonprofit that's not chartered anymore. So they lost their 501c3 status, or they haven't filed any whatever the form is, 993, whatever it is, with the IRS as of today when I checked with ProPublica. So they are the founding members of this group that is a civil rights group that's out protesting outside of RLI's headquarters. Very interesting, right? And this is a pattern with them. This was last year in September. It made the local news, but again, nobody pays attention to it. There's not a single damn reporter that can actually do their job anymore. So nobody was able to tell that this nonprofit that's protesting outside of this business is actually tied to the company that it's lost in a lawsuit to this very same business. It's all a big gimmick. Now, again, this goes on a pattern, right? Because this isn't the first time that this has happened. It's not the first time that they've protested. So this is a screenshot of some of their protests. And if you actually look at the original photo, that guy in the middle looks a lot like one of the protesters that's out there. And then you had another court case that took place. You have this court case, which was brought on by a legal aid center. Guess what they did? They held a protest outside the legal center. And then guess what? Michael Donovan was actually on Tucker Carlson back in, what was it, 2017 or 18? I don't remember the date. And he got embarrassed. So Michael Donovan was funding a lawsuit on behalf of the people that were coming up in an illegal caravan that were not U.S. citizens. And he was arguing that they do have rights as citizens, or they do have rights in America, even though they weren't even in America, never had been in America, and likely we're not going to make it, which in turn they actually didn't. But he was saying that they do have rights. Tucker Carlson embarrassed him on the episode. It's pretty funny to watch. So what did he do? This is alleged. It's alleged that just 2 or 3 days after he was there, what day? I can't read that date. But just a few days after he appeared, it's alleged that he staged another protest where Tucker Carlson's home got vandalized. It's all too convenient. There's always a protest following something bad happening, right? And so we talked about that. And now that brings us to these protests here in Stanton, Virginia. Now, you already remember what I talked about with the cell phones, right? So they were giving away cell phones. Now that they can't use ankle monitors, they were giving cell phones away and charging a program fee. Now, these are there's 2 flyers, the one on the left and the one in the middle. Those are flyers that originally for this show, this system. As you could see, evidence, proof, whatever. They were offering phones to children in order that protest. For 2 different protests, you get a free phone. Now, if you look over here, you'll see on the far right, you'll see Black Lives Matter 757. That's a group out of Norfolk, Virginia. We've actually shown them on the show. They're crazy, like theatrical BLM people that usually go above and beyond. They may care about Black Lives Matter, but obviously with their partnership with Nexus, I don't believe they do anymore. I think they're just there for the show. But now they're also giving away these free phones that have all this tracking data on it, which is creepy as shit. Now, I'll be honest, as soon as I heard that Black Lives Matter 757 was getting involved with Nexus, what was it, 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, I don't know. But I emailed them and I asked them why did they, I just asked them for, you care about Black lives and yet you're working with a company that supposedly doesn't care about brown lives and is charging them to exist here in the United States, because that's technically what Nexus is doing. And I never got a reply. Now, I did reach out to some of the other Black Lives Matter groups that were offered, and I heard, and let's just say third-party conversations, that they had conversations with the executives at Nexus to try to film episodes and to be part of this television show. And they declined because they saw right through it. And to these other groups, they actually gave a shit about Black lives, and it wasn't about theater, as it seems to be in Staunton, Virginia. So I thought that was kind of interesting, right? It doesn't make sense why they're giving away free phones. That's kind of like compensating someone to protest. Now, keep in mind, the people that are protesting, these are the patriots. I'll talk about that in a minute. So these are some of the protesters that you see here. So you got one that's a very grainy photo. That's as you can see where it's circled. That's a picture of one of their microphones. The other loudspeaker, the kid on the far right, that's a picture of one of the microphones. And then in the middle there, you see the skinny Mike Donovan, and he's caressing the back of some boy's head. That was at a protest. I captured that one, which is just creepy in itself to me. But here's something interesting, and I don't know if I talked about this in the video that I made previously about this. So you see here, that's obviously me on the left of that middle photo, and then you see the guy with the arrow under him. Now, this guy says that he works security for Nexus. He's a direct employee of Nexus. So he was at a protest, and he was kind of standing guard. I could tell he used to work security. I could recognize that he was working security, so I decided to ask him a couple of questions. Now, I had the camera facing away, so I'm not sure if he realized that I was live streaming or anything, but he did give me some context, because I asked if he was a company employee of Nexus. He said yes, and I have it all on tape, by the way. So just in case they try to say this didn't happen, I have it because I was recording it. And then he said, yes, he was an employee of Nexus and he was in charge of security. And I said, well, that's weird. Why are you at a BLM protest? And he turns to the protester and he said, well, the majority of them are employees of Nexus. Now, this day, you may remember, there was a woman that came up and I was having a conversation with her. She was wearing a Nexus shirt. We know Michael Donovan was there. He is a Nexus. He owns Nexus. Wayne Schneider is listed on his LinkedIn. He probably deleted it by now. We screenshotted it as well. He was listed as the director of governmental operations for Nexus, which is weird because how can you do that when you're on federal probation for ripping people off on their tax returns? But again, yeah, government operations. And here's the caveat. These guys don't have a damn government contract. Everything they do is consumer based. So there's no government contracts for them. They're not awarded any government contracts, and the government seemingly can't do anything about them to shut them down. But again, why are they protesting in Stanton, Virginia? I was unable to figure it out other than just to say there's a personal vendetta against Sheriff Donald Smith. That's the only thing I could say. Michael Donovan has spent money on campaign ads against Donald Smith. He put, I forgot what the number is, tens of thousands of dollars behind the opponent who lost, trying to oppose Donald Smith for sheriff. He just doesn't like him. I mean, it's clear as day. There's videos, if you go to Page's page or you go to any other pages, there's pages of him yelling at the sheriffs. He just does not like the Augusta County sheriffs. In one of his complaints or one of his lawsuits against the sheriff's department, he gives this whole real weird, elaborate scheme on how the sheriffs were coming after him and they kept bugging his private security guards that guard his home, making sure they're licensed to carry firearms and bugging security at his business compound. And doing this and following them and all that stuff. And it's clearly a vendetta against his sheriff. But it still didn't make sense. Didn't make sense. Like, why? Now, one of the things that piqued my interest in the very beginning of this whole shit show, of this protest, is I wanted to find one of the people, and it was unconfirmed at that time, but one of the people said that, the gym owner, she said that, they have police officers that work out at their gym, and she got the reason why she started doing that flag wave, and I'll show you the reason why she started doing the flag wave, all these people here, was because they got tired of hearing all these sheriffs and all these police officers coming into the gym and saying, like, listen, these BLM protesters are yelling at us. We feel like they're following us home. They're yelling at our family members, all this stuff. Now, all that was unconfirmed, and that's why I didn't mention it in the previous videos. Until the 15th. Until the 15th of this month, because the case with RLI, remember RLI Insurance Services, that case is still going on. And it all came to a head, essentially, on the 15th. Or actually, it was after that. But on the 15th is when a filing was made. And then I don't know what day they actually appeared in court. It could have been the 15th, or it could have been a couple of days later. But the judge in RLI has made a very convincing case on how Nexus has no plans to pay them. They're hiding their money, allegedly, based on, or they're just not being transparent about the money, which they have a court order where they have to, they owe RLI, millions of dollars. So they have to account for everything. They have to account, give a full register of all the payments. There's still everything that they did previously. They're not paying on time. They're paying right at the cusp of the 120-day mark where, the Treasury will pull RLI's certification, all this other stuff. But in this 15, 17 page paperwork that was filed by RLI on the 15th was something that I found very interesting. And let me try to get to that page right here. As you can see, and I'm putting the whole court case up there. You guys can see it up at the top. And if any journalists are watching this and you want to dig into it, there's your court case. Dig into it. But you can see it's highlighted there. Now, this is a list of statements that I believe were all, or a list of payments that were all made in May of this year. And look at this payment. $29,994.10 invoice payment to a company called Absolute Inc. for approximately 193 hours of surveillance of the Augusta County, Virginia sheriff. If that doesn't, that confirms everything about the people being followed or officers feeling like they were being followed. Because maybe they were. Now, I did do my due diligence. I looked up in the state of Virginia, every company called Absolute Inc. There was one. It was a private investigations company based out of Roanoke, Virginia. Or no, I'm sorry, out of Norfolk, Virginia. I called them and I spoke to someone who identified himself as the owner or the person that answered the phone. I looked up the background of it. I'm not going to broadcast his business because he said, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know who Nexus is. I'm not working with them. or everything like that. And I could tell, and I'll say this: the guy that I was able to locate there, who's a licensed private investigator, and his company is licensed. He's the only company in this entire state under the Absolute Inc. The only one. But he says he has nothing to do with it. And so I can only, take him at his word. So who is Absolute Inc.? Because I talked with a private investigator friend who happens to be licensed here in Virginia. Shout out to you. You know who you are. I'm not going to say your name on the air, but you are one of our fans that watch. And you're licensed here. And I asked, would this be ethical? And she said, absolutely not. It would not be ethical for a licensed private investigator to trail a police department, especially if they're logging 193 hours, which is insane. That's an insane amount of hours. That's an insane amount of money to pay. So think about it. That's over 40 hours a week for 4 weeks, if on one person doing it. So let's put everything as like the big picture here, because this is a story that I don't understand why more. Like the Washington Post has written about Nexus. Didn't go anywhere. The New Yorker made a video about it. New York Times wrote about it. And a bunch of little independent guys have talked about it. I made my big video. We wrote 2 articles that went extremely viral. The Drinking Bros made a video talking about this, a whole episode on the American Revolution, or I forgot what that show is. But they did a whole show about it. Mainstream media is not even touching it. And we've tweeted them. We've done everything we can to get them to pay attention. How is this company that is seemingly under investigation by virtually every single department? They're under investigation currently. Right now, there's a lawsuit. Everyone can look it up. They're being sued by New York's Attorney General, Massachusetts Attorney General. They just settled with Virginia. They've settled in the past with California and one other state. I forgot, maybe Florida or Georgia or something. And it just keeps going. It just keeps going. But now, is it different now that they, by their own court documents, they made a payment that was earmarked for surveillance of a United States Police Department? The very same police department that they have paid protesters. And again, these paid actors that are there protesting have admitted that they're being paid to be on the show. We have all the screenshots. We have the sound captures. They've admitted that they're being paid to be on the show. They say they're protesting at their own free will, even though the entire show, the system, is about protesting BLM. Now, this group happens to appear at all these different places. They were in Kenosha when the riots happened in Kenosha. They're sitting there in Nexus shirts, even though the Wayne Schneider guy said he doesn't work for Nexus. And I've been retired, he says. But he was in Kenosha looking at remember that burned down auto lot? Remember? We all watched it live when they set that thing ablaze. And he said, well, maybe they just were not a good place. On a video. I downloaded the video too, again. So I can back up everything I say. That's the beauty of doing my job. I just don't understand how this company, and in all fairness, I reached out to the sheriff's department then as well in Augusta, and I asked them for a comment. They didn't get it. They didn't even reply at all. But I guarantee right now they're looking into this. They're looking into this and why some company received nearly $30,000 to surveil their office and their officers. This is, I said it last time. I viewed it as dangerous. I viewed this company as dangerous. I viewed what they were doing as dangerous because, one, it does 2 things. One, they're actively recruiting through social media, and we're so lucky that they don't have a big audience, so they're not getting a huge turnout of protesters in Augusta County. But they're actively, promoting their show. They're paying Bonnie Chapman, Dog the Bounty Hunter's daughter, to go out here and protest with them, which is absolutely insane. And we have screen captures from her where she's offering to pay and reimburse people for travel and expenses. And then she switches, once we called her out on it, she switched it to, we're actively trying to raise money for travel and expenses. But she's being paid. We have the screenshots of her tweets when she said she's being cast for the show, the system. But for some reason, nobody cares. All these cast members and their professional film crew that's from Miami, they come up and they go into these town hall meetings. And they go into the Augusta County Board of Supervisors meeting and they give an address in Verona. And then they go to a Waynesboro meeting and they give addresses in Waynesboro. Everyone can fact check that. That is very true. Go in. The meetings are public record. Everyone can look it up. So why are people that are speaking at one meeting one week saying they're because you can't speak unless you're a resident of that town, saying they're a resident of Verona, and then the next week they're saying they're a resident of some other town? Are they even residents of this state? Because a lot of them came from Illinois. A lot of these kids came from Illinois. I just really, I don't understand what's going on here. And I wish some of the bigger news outlets would pick it up and try to run with it and say, what is going on here? How is this company that boasts to have 6,500 people paying them monthly to be here? I mean, you would think whatever party line you're on, if you're Democrat or Republican, this would still be a story. If you're a Democrat, then you'd be like, oh my God, this company's taking advantage of these migrants. And if you're a Republican, you'd be like, oh my God, this company is taking advantage of these people that we don't want here. I just use the extremes for that measure. But you know what I'm saying? But seemingly nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention to it. It doesn't make any sense. But then again, what does? This is 2021. Nothing makes sense. But I think the biggest takeaway from this story, and one of the reasons that I wanted to write it and I wanted to talk about it today, is this police department that has had these protesters, screaming at them, and all these officers screaming at them, saying, give up your badge. All these officers that feared for their safety from these protesters, these actors. Let's not even call them protesters, because I have more respect for actual protesters. These are actors. They were just down there the other day in Richmond, Virginia, with the Black Lives Matter 757 group. I've shared it on Twitter. I got sick to my stomach watching it because they had scripts. They had pieces of paper with all these flyers. They're trying to get everyone to come back to Stanton. Now, granted, we did a good thing there because we brought, I called for people to come out and protest, to do the flag wave. A bunch of people came out. We covered it. It was great. And you know what? The town of Stanton they got 2 weeks of reprieve where they stopped going out for like 2 weeks. But now apparently they're starting to go again. They can't use loudspeakers. Yeah, you could thank me for that because I reminded everyone that you could just look up town code. Can't use loudspeakers. It's against town code. So now they're just trying to circle around loudspeakers so everyone gets the civil citation. But again, this company, Nexus, that is apparently not paying their bills in the judgments that are before them. They're not paying the companies that they didn't pay for the ankle monitors that sued them. They're not paying RTI. But yet they're paying some weird shadow company $30,000 to surveil the police department. They're paying another security company $24,000 for private security or protective services. And then when this company isn't paying their bills, why are they transferring $140,000 or $104,000 plus a bunch of other transactions, $33,500, $15,796, and $35,104 to one of these BLM protester guys that's also an executive within this company? They're transferring it to his name, or they're transferring it to other businesses, all alleged, all be in this complaint. How is nobody, the FBI is literally going after grandmothers right now. How is nobody knocking on the door of these guys? How come Fox News or even CNN doesn't have reporters up at their business trying to figure out how this company has gotten away with this so long? Millions of dollars. I think it said one of their monthly earning was like $3 or $4 million that they're getting. That's what they're making off of illegal immigrants. It's in that document. And again, the case number is up at the top. Everyone can look up this case. It's up at the top in the upper left. Mainstream media should be figuring out who these guys are and why this is still going on. And why a police department in the United States has to deal with people surveilling them. Like, I want to know who Absolute Inc. is. And again, if you look it up in the state of Virginia, there is a company called Absolute Inc. And that company does happen to be a private investigator. That guy that I talked to on the phone said he had no idea who Nexus was. I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But it's very odd. This whole thing is very odd. And when I saw that, surveillance on the Augusta County Sheriff, it immediately verified all the other claims of all these officers that said they were being followed or felt like they were being followed home. This is what it's come down to. And again, this isn't even about Black Lives Matter. In my opinion, on seeing what protests have taken place over the course of my life, over the course of the past year, I've seen what people mean when they're chanting Black Lives Matter. I've seen it. You could see that they mean it when they're doing it. Even if it's even if they're saying outrageous things. This group, they're reading off scripts. They actually have scripts and different chants, and they're being led by these adults, all convicted felons. But again, mainstream media is oblivious to it. We'd rather talk about 3 people that, 5 people now that have been vaccinated and got COVID again, or we don't know if they've been vaccinated, but they met with the president, but who cares? Oh, no, blah, 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 blah. It's very, very weird to me. Very weird. Someone said, I don't know. I don't know. I can't even get caught up in the chat because everyone's having different ones. Someone said BLM doesn't represent Black lives. No, they represent communism, according to the recent tweets from that group. But I don't know. My hope in bringing attention to this kind of stuff is that people will reach out to their media, local media, big media, national media, and just say, hey, here's the story you guys got to cover. Because as much as I would love to say that, I've got tens of thousands of people that watch, we're not covering a protest tonight, so we're not going to. When we cover a protest, we get all the Antifa porn junkies that come in just to watch Antifa get beat up by police or patriots or whatever you want to call it. But people don't necessarily care about this kind of stuff all the time. And this is the kind of stuff that you need to care about. A small town being overrun by paid actors. A small town police department being overrun by paid actors and being followed by security companies, apparently. These are big things. Someone said, once you have an MSM outlet pick up the story, they will be accused of defamation of the group as a whole and labeled racist. Yeah, but that's not true. When you actually, that's the thing about having receipts. That's the whole reason they haven't sued me yet. And I wish they would, because we do have all the receipts. And I even have a lawyer that would countersue on contingent. Like, we're set. But they're not going to, because we have everything in line. And they know, literally, if they sue it, it's going to get more attention. They'd just rather not have anyone pay attention to it. And it sucks. But media isn't media. They're part of the anti-American agenda, tearing us apart from within. Yeah, I know. And that's why I keep doing this. And that's why I'm doing everything I got. That's why I'm doing what we do here at Citizen Stringer and PT News. But, yeah. I don't really have anything else. I know there are 2 AMR, and I don't have an update yet. There are 2 AMR EMTs. I used to work for AMR when I first became an EMT before I became a firefighter. And yesterday in Arizona, I think it was in Arizona, a 20-year-old EMT was shot in the head. A 21-year-old EMT was shot in the chest and the arm when a gunman just came up to them out of the blue while they were staged at another medical call and opened up on him. He then got into his car, drove down the road, and where firefighters were fighting a structure fire and opened fire on them, shooting a 17-year police captain or a firefighting captain with the Tucson Fire Department, shot him in the arm, shot a neighbor in the arm, and shot another neighbor, killing him. And then they discovered there was a body in the car. Or I'm sorry, in the house that was all burned up when they finally got the fire under wraps. As he tried to flee, he rammed a police car. He opened up on the police officer. Police officer struck him. He was in critical condition. The suspect was in critical condition. Last I heard, the EMT that was shot in the head, 20-year-old kid, he was in critical condition. And the female EMT that was shot in the chest and the arm was in stable condition as of this morning. But that was a massive mass shooting. Then we had a mass shooting in DC. I'll be honest, there were too many mass shootings because I think there were 15 or 16 mass shootings over the past 72 hours. It's an insane number. I looked at it this morning and I was thinking about writing about it. I just didn't want to. And I know that's not good for news. I should just do it anyway, even if I don't want to. But it just sucks. Like mass shootings. There were 6 people shot in Perth Amboy. What was that? So that was today. 6 people shot. Nobody killed, thank God. Gainesville, Florida. 5 people were shot. 1 killed. No, so 6 people were shot. 1 killed in Gainesville, Florida today. Tucson, we talked about that. 6 people total shot. Burlington, North Carolina, there was another mass shooting yesterday. 4 people killed. Walnut Creek, California, yesterday. 1 person killed, 3 injured. Houston, Texas, mass shooting yesterday. 3 people killed, 2 injured. Toledo, Ohio, 1 person killed, 3 injured. Saturday. Portland, Oregon, that 1 girl died. Someone walking, hanging out, buying food from a food truck. 1 girl was shot, 6 others injured. They don't have that shooter either. City of Love. Remember that Summer of Love from last year? What is this? Now they have 3. Their murder rate. Portland is 2 murders away from breaking their 2020 record for the whole year of murders. I think they have 54 murders already this year. Unless anyone's died in the past 2 days, which there probably has been. Chicago, Illinois, there was a mass shooting, 6 people injured on the 17th, Saturday. On Friday, there was a shit ton of mass shootings, 6 of them. DC, 1 person killed, 5 injured. Manchester, New Hampshire, 4 people were shot, all survived. Greenville, South Carolina, 1 person killed, 3 injured. Illinois, Chicago again, 1 person killed, 3 injured. Sacramento, California, 2 people killed, 4 injured. And Philadelphia, 1 person killed, 4 injured. So what is that? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 mass shootings in the past 72 hours. How many of those do you think were legal gun owners? Probably 0. How many of those? Yeah, I know CNN always says the mass shooters are always white. Guess how many of those people were probably white? Probably not a lot. Typically, it isn't. Someone said, and in a poll, Portland is in the top 10 cities to visit. Yeah. Someone said, Tampa man that breached the Senate chamber on January 6th is getting 8 months in jail. He's probably getting time served, or he's got 2 more months. I don't know. I didn't write about it. I don't even know if we did. We're having a problem with our poster. I switched the service that automatically posts to social media, and it's not doing what I want, so I'm probably going to find a new one tomorrow that works better. How about the car-to-car shooting Saturday in Washington, D.C.? Yeah, that turned out not to be. Even though the D.C. Metro Police, initially they said 2 people were shot, and then they updated that to say 2 additional people turned themselves into a hospital with gunshot wounds. So that brought it to the mass shooting level, and then they changed that back down to just 3 people were shot. So now they're saying that the 2 people were shooting at each other in cars, or at least 2 different vehicles were shooting at each other. 1 person in each car was injured, and then a innocent young girl that was outside waiting for a taxi or something after watching part of the Nats game, and she was shot and killed. But again, just like I talked to somebody else, they said that area is just bad. That's it. But hey, drugs are free. Nobody goes to jail. Someone else said, yep. Someone else said 56 shot this weekend in Chicago. Yep. That's Emily. Thank you for that big super chat up there on YouTube. Thank you. But yeah, it's important for us to talk about all this stuff. It's important to it, but I was doing so much background. I'll tell you what, if you read the article that I wrote on this whole Nexus systems and the paying, to surveil the sheriffs, that took me a long time. And it's not really written well or anything. I have a ton of run-on sentences. My wife is like, you got to fix this, you got to fix that. And I'm like, I can't. What do you do? I'm going to have to write a whole book on Nexus alone, just on how, corrupt this whole thing seems. This is by far one of the weirdest stories. And you guys know we've covered some big stories. We don't normally, people don't really reference it. That was the thing when we were just a logistics news outlet. At least when we covered a story, when it was picked up by somebody else, they at least gave us the credit for it. It seems like when we write something, nobody does it. Like we were the first ones to write about John Sullivan. They don't mention PT News Network anywhere, or Citizen Stringer or anything in any of that. And it would be helpful, because shit, I am someone that totally immerses myself in everything. Like John Sullivan, I know more about him than he probably does. Nexus now, I know more about their operations than other people probably do. But, and it's just, people need to pay attention, man. Someone said, just tuned in. Can I get an update, please? No. I'm wrapping the show up. It's just going to be a quick one today. Well, not really quick. It's 53 minutes so far. I'll give an update too for the Citizen Stringer app. Again, if you are not a PTNN member, go sign up for PTNN. You'll get a link once you sign up. It's free for everybody. I'm just trying, the way we have it set up now, please don't share the link to it. If you do have the link, please don't share the link, because the way it's set up now, everyone that's on there, you're automatically put on the right level, because today was a disaster and we had to manually approve 250 people. So I didn't want to do that anymore. So we flipped a couple of buttons, but now we have to go through the 3,700 people that subscribe on PTNN and match them, which is going to take a big, long time. And we planned this app out. Like if you've actually seen the Citizen Stringer app now, it's badass, right? But yeah, we forgot to batch our uploads, so everybody was taken care of. But someone said, why are you not a supporter anymore, Steve or April? Here's the thing about Facebook. We don't control the supporters. So if you're not a supporter, that has to do with Facebook. It's nothing we can do. If you want to cancel your supporter thing on Facebook, I can't help you. It's something you have to do with Facebook. But yeah, the Citizen Stringer app is out now on Android. It's not out yet for iPhone, Apple. It's not out yet because they kept kicking it back, but they just resubmitted it again today. But the app is pretty cool, man. And it's pretty rad. So when the iPad one comes out, I'm going to do a demo and just talk about everything with you guys, just so everyone understands. And I'm just going to put that video on PTNN. That won't be a live one, or maybe it'll be live, but only on PTNN and Citizen Stringer. But yeah, you can watch all the live feeds on there. Everything else is free. So the live feeds, you got to be a PTNN member. Right now, it's going to allow you to do it, but that'll change. If you're a PTNN member, this is like a complimentary app to PTNN. You get all that stuff. Anyway, if you're not a PTNN member, just go sign up, and that way you get to watch the live feeds as well. Otherwise, the videos will be available the next day, so you could watch this for free tomorrow or just on social media. But starting probably next week, what we're going to do, and Freedom Flashpoint's going to be doing the same thing. We'll do an hour on social media, and then we'll do another hour just for the app or just for the PTNN members. And that's where I'll do the call-in shows. That way we don't have to have the crap that happened 2 Fridays ago. We don't have to deal with that anymore. It'll only be a call-in show for members. And so I'll start doing that once a week. And we're going to have like special interviews and things like that, because I'm going to start doing more interviews and getting out more and doing things like that. So that's that. I appreciate what qualifies as a supporter. I don't know. It's a Facebook supporter thing. Like you could press a button and become a Facebook supporter. But I think that's about it, man. I'll give you guys some updates. My kids are with my in-laws. I miss them. It's hard as hell, because I usually when I travel for work, that's fine because they're with my wife and I'm comfortable with that. But they're with in-laws and it sucks. I miss them. And now my dogs are both sick, one of which we had to take to the ER today. And she had a bunch of shots and she's puking and it just sucks. And they say it's stress, probably from missing the kids. No joke, because they're puppies. So it's been an interesting day. It's been quiet for sure, but it's been interesting because, like I said, our dogs have been very, very sick. Both of them. We thought it was Provo or something, but they did all the tests and it wasn't that. So They got a bunch of antibiotics and everything like that, and they'll be fine. And then I had to go get blood work today, so I'm, because I'm getting old. They're like, "Oh, when's the last time you had blood work?" I'm like, "I don't know, 10 years." They're like, "We're doing it." So had to get all that done. So I'm just tired. If you've ever had blood work and then not really eaten and still gone to the gym like an idiot, that's where I am today. So, but I appreciate everyone for being here, and I will Parvo. Yeah, that's what it is, not Provo. Parvo. Yeah, but they don't have Parvo. They tested it and it was fine. Yes, so go to ptnn.tv. If you want to sign up for ptnn.tv, now you could do the $12.99 per month plan, or you can do the lifetime membership, which is like the whatever it is, $3.99. And here's a deal too. If you sign up for the lifetime one, and you do it within the next day or two, and I see it, you'll get the big box that we're sending, because I'm doing that order. Well, I started it today, but I have to finish it by Wednesday, so I get it by the 30th, so I can send it all out. So you'll get your big box of goodies in time there. If you sign up for the lifetime, or if you sign up for the year and you use code CENSORED, you get 30% or $30 off as well. But yeah. I appreciate all you guys for being here. Appreciate everyone for watching. I will be back live tomorrow. I think there's a hearing at one day. I think it's Thursday that I want to watch. So a Senate hearing. I forgot what it's about, but I will likely put that. I'll likely broadcast that. And I may do one of the Jen Psaki ones this week because she's crazy. Wait, how much blood work was drawn? A pint? I don't know. They draw 4 big old vials. What about the founders that paid? Are we still members? Oh, yeah. So PTNN never changes. So PTNN is always going to exist. So now what you have to think about is Citizen Stringer is like a complimentary app to PTNN. So if you're a PTNN member, you have full access to the Citizen Stringer app that's on here, including the live feed. So you could watch on whatever live feed, or you can watch on the same exact app that you have been for a long time, or using the web chat. So like with the Citizen Stringer app, we're just going to be rebranding PTNN to Citizen Stringer. So you'll still use the same web chat and the same functionality. I'm just going to make it look better later. But the thing that's different about Citizen Stringer is we have the news in here. We have where you now can interact with the show and upload videos. And I'm going to talk about that at a later time. I don't want to do it now. But you can upload videos into there. You can if I end the show by saying, "Hey, do you have a question you want to ask me?" Upload a video and we'll play those questions. Like I said, I want to do the national anthem. I'd like everybody to make a video and just say a verse of the national anthem, and then I want to make a big video with all of our viewers because I think it would be cool. Different things like that. And you can interact with every show. You can interact with my show, Adam's show, and then more shows as we keep going. But there's a lot of stuff on Citizen Stringer. But and also the cool thing about Citizen Stringer is if you go to Citizen Stringer TV on your app, and you click this show after this show ends, you're watching it right now. And if you click this show immediately after it ends, guess what? You get to watch it all over. It automatically replays, so I don't have to keep doing it. And then it will be uploaded under the shows tab as well tomorrow. So anyway, but yeah, I appreciate all you guys for watching. We will see you guys mañana. That's tomorrow in Spanish. Forgot to press the button, so I was making a weird face.